Hey guys, how's it going? I'm here at my storage space in Portland, Oregon. I just flew in from Oakland. I stayed in Oakland last night, had a overnight layover there, and then just came back from Europe in my whole 6 month trip. And so I'm just going to do a quick little thing here. Just thought that I would give a little insight into one of the aspects of my life as a world traveler, and one of the ways that I'm able to do this and be mobile and save a little bit of money is that I actually have more stuff than you would think, always just seeing me with a backpack on my back. But I actually have a whole storage space here in the basement of this apartment. And so there's apartments up above here. And I lived in this apartment in 2007 to 2008, so a decade ago. I lived in Portland here for 6 years altogether, although even though I was in Portland for 6 years, then I had a bunch of different apartments here. I moved like every year. And so I had like 5 or 6 different houses and apartments and stuff here. So I ended up moving in here after coming back from my trip to India in 2006, which was like the beginning of my intense world travels. So my first trip abroad was in 1990 when I was 18 years old, and I went to Europe for the summer and came back from there. And then I didn't travel again, out of the United States, other than sort of passing through Canada, for almost another decade, until 1999 when I went to India the first time for 5 months. In between that time, that I was still doing all kinds of traveling. That was actually like the most hardcore traveling of my life, basically, because I was living on the road around the U.S. and hitchhiking all over the place and living on farms and sleeping on the side of the road and living on the beaches of Hawaii and living on like communities, and went to Alaska and worked there for a summer and like all kinds of stuff. I talk about those adventures in my book, Following My Thumb: A Decade of Unabashed Wanderlust. Link down below the video here if you want to check that out. In 2006, and I'd been living here in Portland for like 4 years, or 2005. Then I've been here, I guess, just 3 years. And I was, getting the travel bug again. And so I planned this trip to India and went to South India for 3 months and came back, and then ended up getting this apartment here. And I lived here for 1.5 years, and then in the process saved up money and got ready for another trip to Hawaii, Thailand, Nepal, and India in 2007 and 2008. And so I moved out of the apartments here when I left for that trip, but there were these storage spaces here that I'd seen. There's a laundry facility here. And so I'd seen these storage spaces, and so I asked the guy, is it possible to rent one of these spaces? And he said, yeah, they're $10 a month. Amazing deal. And so I rented one, and then I've kept it ever since then, even though I actually came back to Portland once again in 2008 and 2009, and lived here for another like 1.5 years or something. But I kept the space here just because I thought, well, for future travels, then it might come in handy, and certainly it obviously did. And so this is one way that I save some bucks, is having this cheap storage space for only $10 a month, whereas otherwise you would be spending $60 minimum. And so when you do the math on that for a whole decade, then I have saved like more than $6,000 just from having this storage space. Now I realize that not everyone gets to find a $10 a month storage space, so that isn't really something you can count on. But hopefully if you can find friends or family that you can store stuff in, or something, then that is just one way that you can save some money and make it a little easier to travel without having a whole bunch of big expenses back home. And so anyways, that is it right there, my stuff. So you can see I have a fair amount of stuff, all relative being. I mean, that's a small amount of stuff compared to most people, but that's it there. And so these are other units along here, and you can see it is like the lowest of low security. It's just this little like chicken wiring. I'm not sure why he didn't, put something at least a little tougher to break into, but I guess there have not been any incidents, and the door's locked there into the basement, and it's a nice neighborhood here, and so I guess it works out. And then in order to make my space here a little more high security, then I have this piece of wood here that fits right in here. I just went to I don't even know, junkyard or thrift store or something when I first got this space, because this wasn't sufficient for me, especially going to be gone for months at a time. And so that fits in here, and at least that makes it a little bit more difficult to get in there. But so far so good. In 10 years, never had the place broken into. And so I don't have hardly any furniture. A little bookshelf here, a drawer here, a little table here, and then otherwise it is just random stuff, books and CDs and tape player, CD player, and clothes, like all kinds of clothes and stuff for apartment that I would be fairly set up other than the furniture aspect. And so whenever, if I ever finally actually move into an apartment again sometime, then I will, at least have, a lot of the stuff that I would need for living a normal life. And so the reason that I'm here is I'm kind of doing a rearrange. I flew up to Portland, for one thing, to do my taxes. It is like, April, whatever, 10th. And so tax time is coming up in a week here. And so that is one of the reasons that I came back from this trip, now. Also, I was just, ready for a break, 6 months of traveling. And so wanted to be back in familiar territory, even though I don't really know what exactly I'm doing next. But a quick, just kind of nutshell travel update, future plans. Is that so I'm going next to Salem, which is the capital of Oregon here, just a hour and a half or an hour south of Portland, and a good friend of mine, Eric. Howdy folks, I'm here with my buddy Eric.
Hi.
From California, but we were college roommates in Fairbanks, Alaska back in 1990 to 91, and then Juneau 91, 92. And we've been hanging out ever since, off and on, as I pass through. So I'm just passing through Salem, Oregon, where he lives, and we're going to a music festival. Who has been in some of my previous videos, and I told the story of how we met in Alaska when I was in Fairbanks, Alaska, just 6 months ago before I started this last trip, when I was working in Denali National Park, and I stayed in Fairbanks and did a tour of the University of Alaska campus, and told the story of how we met and ended up being roommates in Fairbanks there, and then in Juneau again. This was 1990 to 91, and then in Juneau 91 to 92. And then I left Alaska. He stayed up there for another few years, met his wife there, and they then moved back to here. He's also from California originally, but has been living in Oregon now for quite a while. And so his address is the actual legal address that I use while I'm traveling for my credit cards and driver's license and voter registration and stuff like that. And so mail ends up at his house, and so that is one reason that I'm here. And then also just because I lived in Portland for 6 years, then it is kind of a hometown to me. I have family here, and so it is a good landing spot for deciding where I'm going next. And so where I'll be going next after visiting Eric is my brother's in Eastern Oregon. He lives in the city, or the small town of La Grande, and he has been in videos of mine as well years ago. But if you saw the videos of me driving the truck across Oregon south to California and getting in that tough situation with my truck breaking down in the wilderness, and then I made that movie Broken Down about hiking out into the Marble Mountains in Northern California and then getting lost out there and all that. That was my brother's truck, and so I'm going back to visit my brother and his wife and their son, and then from there I will go down to California, back to my mom's in Northern California, and I will be house sitting once again for a couple of weeks while she is gone. She and my stepdad on a vacation of their own, and so I will have a house to myself for a couple of weeks and be figuring out what exactly I want to do next. I really don't know at all. So anyways, that is the next few weeks. And so really quick, I thought that I would show a couple of things here. One, a backpack that you might recognize. Anyone who saw my videos from trekking in Nepal. And I can see Annapurna Base Camp up ahead. What a stunning sight. Annapurna South, there straight ahead. And Machu Picchu behind me. Annapurna 1 is just behind that ridge there. There will be much better views of it from the base camp there. And Greece and that whole trip. Then I had this backpack. This is my favorite traveling backpack that I've had, but I haven't been using it for the past couple of trips because it was stuck up here. I wanted it, but I was down in California and didn't have access to it, and it just wasn't convenient to come up here, obviously, unless I was already coming through. And so basically, I think I dropped this off when I picked up the big backpack that I was going to use for that backpacking trip in the Marble Mountains. and so I traded it out with this one, and then this got stuck up here. And so that is one of the reasons that I'm here, is I am picking up that pack and getting rid of this crappy backpack, which is the one that I've had for this past trip that I bought in Bangkok, and then it started falling apart shortly thereafter. You know, a knockoff backpack. It's held in there at least, but it is not all that comfy, and it is just kind of, you know, who knows what's going to break on it next. And so I'll be taking my stuff, putting it in that backpack, and then also doing some general rearranging, getting a few other things that I want from here, and dropping off a few things. And then I have a room here in Portland for the night, and then head down to Salem. Also, just thought that I would give you guys a little taste of my taste in music, in case you're curious, because I have all these CDs in here. I have like, I don't know, probably more than 100 CDs that I haven't listened to in like more than a decade, because they've been in boxes here. So just go through a couple of these. String Cheese Incident, Leonard Cohen. Bella Fleck, Bob Dylan. I am a huge Bob Dylan fan. Curve. Curve is like one of my all-time favorite bands. They're a like London alternative rock band. Leo Kottke, guitarist. Widespread Panic. Grateful Dead. Big Grateful Dead fan as well. Beck, The Band, The Best of the Band Volume 2. That is a great album there. Billy Bragg and Wilco, Mermaid Avenue Volume 2. Really good one. Kate Bush, Ariel. Again, Curve. Little Feat. These guys are amazing, like 70s Southern rock kind of. Neil Young. Love Neil Young. All right, that is just kind of a little taste of what's in here. All right, I'm going to get back to work here, so stay tuned. I have no idea what the next video will be, whether from Oregon here or back in California. We will see. You know, I have a lot of ideas for various like travel tales, telling some travel stories, and like tips, and my YouTube tips video, stuff like that. So there will still be more coming for sure from Oregon or California or something like that. And as I said, I have no idea where I'm going next after here. We'll see. All right, take it easy.